Welcome to the return. Wherever you are right now, in your bed, on the couch, in a quiet room with the door closed, I want you to know that for the next few minutes, you don't have to be anyone. Not the mother, not the wife, not the woman who holds it all together. Just you. Before we start this evening's episode, let's take a breath together. A slow and deep breath in through the nose and out through your mouth. Let that breath wash away everything you've hung on to today. Good. Tonight I want to tell you a story. My story. Not all of it, because some of it is mine to keep. But enough of it that you might recognize something of your own. I spent most of my adult life afraid to be alone. I didn't know that about myself for a very long time. What I knew was that I was always in a relationship, always choosing someone, always building something with someone, always making sure there was someone beside me so I wouldn't have to sit with the silence inside myself. And the men I chose, they had patterns too. I just couldn't see it yet. My first marriage was to a man who was a narcissist, and I don't use that word casually. I mean it in the truest, most devastating sense. He put me through things that no woman should have to carry alone, and I carried them. But surviving something and healing from it are two very different journeys, and I didn't know that yet. So, when that marriage ended, I didn't stop to ask myself why I'd chosen what I chose. I didn't sit with the ache long enough to understand it. I did what I had always done, and I replaced the emptiness with another person, and I found someone new. My second husband, I believed we were spiritually connected. I believed we saw each other in ways no one else could. And in some ways, maybe we did. But what I couldn't see at the time was that spiritual connection and emotional availability are not the same thing. He wasn't able to meet me in the places where I needed to be met. And I kept standing at the door waiting for it to open, not understanding that it would never open. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't have the key. After him, there were other relationships, and the same thread kept weaving through every one of them. Men who could not reach me in the deep places because I had yet to learn that I was allowed to need that kind of depth. I didn't know I was choosing from a wound. I thought I was choosing from love. And then I met my husband, the man I'm with now. We've been together for 15 beautiful years. He was so different, not because he was perfect, but because he was safe. He was my safe place, and I was his. We gave each other room for each of us to soften instead of always bracing. I didn't find him because I got lucky. I found him because I finally started to see the pattern. I stopped choosing from the wounds and I started choosing from something closer to wholeness. From the woman I was underneath all of that survival. And that didn't happen overnight. It happened because I was finally honest enough and tired enough to look at what I'd been doing without flinching and without blaming anyone, including myself. And that willingness to look, that is where my return begun. But the relationships were just one expression of something deeper. I had learned at a very young age that being myself was not safe. When I was a child, I experienced things that taught me before I even had language for any of it that who I was needed to be hidden, that my safety depended on becoming whatever the people around me needed me to be. And so I became that. I became all of it. I could walk into a room, any room, and within seconds, I knew who I needed to be, what face to wear, what tone to use, what version of Tammy would keep everyone comfortable, keep everyone pleased, keep the peace, and keep me safe. I was a chameleon, and I was astonishing at it. But here's what no one tells you about being a chameleon. After years, after decades of changing your colors for everyone else, you forget what your own color looks like. You've been performing so many versions of yourself for so long that when someone finally asks who you really are, when you stop long enough to ask yourself that question, the silence is terrifying because you don't know. You genuinely don't know. And if that's you tonight, if you're lying there right now and something in your chest just got tight because you recognize that silence, I want you to hear me. You are not broken. You are patterned. You learned to disappear in order to be loved. And that took more strength, more intelligence, more creative survival than anyone has ever given you credit for. But you don't have to keep disappearing, not anymore. I want to tell you one more thing because I never want you to think that the woman on this podcast has her whole life sorted into neat little boxes with bows on top. To this day, to this very day, I still notice the patterns showing up in my life, in my relationship towards money. That grip, that need to know where every dollar is or when we are going to spend it or how we're going to spend it, that need to control it, to hold tightly. Because for so long, money felt like the only area in my life where I had power. And not that I had a lot of that money, but the one thing I could manage when everything else felt unmanageable was the finances. Now I'm a lot gentler with myself about it now, and I can see it for what it is. It's a survival pattern. Something that kept me safe once and doesn't need to run the show anymore. But I wouldn't be honest if I told you it wasn't gone or if it was gone. Some patterns don't vanish. They soften and they loosen their hold, and slowly over the years, with patience and honesty and self compassion, they're more manageable. And I share this with you because this is not a podcast where the host pretends to have all the answers. I am still returning. I am still becoming. I am still in the work. And that's the whole point. So here's what I want to leave you with tonight. Not homework, it's not an assignment, it's just a question to hold if you'd like to. When was the last time you felt like yourself? Not the version of you that everyone needs, not the mother, the manager, the one who makes sure it gets all done, but the woman who existed before all of the roles, before the performing, before the making sure everyone else is okay. When was the last time you felt her? You don't have to answer it tonight. You don't even have to answer it this week. Just let the question sit somewhere quiet inside of you. And when it's ready, you'll get your answer. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not too damaged, too old, or too set in your ways to find your way back to yourself. Your soul has been waiting patiently, kindly, without a single judgment for you to turn around and come home. And she's still there. She has always been there. Rest well tonight, and I will see you at the next episode.